So this is Halle Berry, but before she actually became a famous actor, she started off her career by performing in beauty pageants. Now, over the course of her career, she started to star in TV shows and movies and won awards like Golden Globes and Emmys. Until one day, her career hit a peak when she won an award that most actors dream of winning. She won the Oscar for Best Actress in a Movie. Now, I say that her career hit a peak because what comes up must come down, and what comes with the Oscars, unfortunately, is the Oscar curse. So, legend has it that when an actor wins an Oscar, it kickstarts this rapid decline in their popularity and their quality of work. Some also say that the curse can make its way into other aspects of its victims' lives, even going as far as to ruin their romantic relationship. And that's what happened in this case, but it's not just her. Many actors have been plagued by this Oscar curse. So you might be thinking to yourself, but I'm not superstitious. And I want to challenge you to think of some of the superstitions that we talk about in our everyday lives. Things that we may say cause us bad luck, like Friday the 13th, broken mirrors, black cats, or the fact that you frantically knock on wood every time you say something hopeful to avoid jinxing yourself. And spoiler alert, a lot of these curses actually don't exist. So this particular study by Jensen and Kim looked at the number of movies that various actors had put out per year compared to the years after their first movie. And they found that male actors who had never been nominated for an Oscar faced a stronger decline in the number of movies that they had starred in compared to Oscar winners. And the same trend was shown for female non-nominees compared to female Oscar winners. So you might be thinking, although you're like totally not superstitious, why is it that the day you walked under a ladder happened to be the same day that you failed your test? Well, although we may not be falling victim to a curse, it's likely that we're falling victim to something called confirmation bias, and it starts with believing in these superstitions to begin with. Once we believe in them, we perpetuate them by only looking at evidence that supports that they exist, and we ignore all evidence that goes against it. So let's say that it's the night of the Oscars and you're scrolling through your phone. Just by seeing countless articles about this Oscar curse, it can get implanted in our minds and we might start to think that it's real. In your own life, these superstitions get spread socially, so thinking about the last time someone told you to knock on wood. Now, even as time progresses, when an actor wins an Oscar, you may now start to look only at the things that point towards their downfall. So you might only look at their movies that receive bad ratings and not the ones that receive good ratings. In your own life, when you break a mirror, you may now start to notice every single bad thing that happens to you for the next 7 years. And you might attribute those things to breaking that mirror rather than to their actual causes. Even as years pass, you may start to ignore all the Oscar winners that have had continually successful careers because they just may not stand out in your mind. Whereas you may never associate that the day you got your dream job was the same day that you saw a black cat in the street. So whether or not an actor remains at this peak of superstardom may not really affect our lives in huge ways, but these other superstitions can. So what can we do about this? Well, in science, when we generate a hypothesis, we actively try to falsify this hypothesis, and we can do the same thing in our everyday lives. So by actively looking for evidence that these superstitions don't exist, we might see that they were never actually there to begin with. The next thing that we can do is take responsibility for our own actions. So maybe the real reason you didn't do so great on that test was because you should have studied more and not because you were walking under ladders earlier that day. The last thing is that many of us say things like, I need to see something to believe it. But confirmation bias actually shows us the opposite. It shows us that when we believe something, we will actually start to see it. So if you want to see good fortune in your life, I want to challenge you to actively look for it, take responsibility for creating it, and believe that good fortune is possible and it's all around us. Thank you.